Sejam muito bem-vindos à Ideias Estante. Esta semana vamos apresentar o Access Africa Forum, evento que este ano teve como tema Moçambique. Qual a importância deste mercado de língua oficial portuguesa é o que vamos tentar saber ao longo deste programa. O nosso convidado de hoje é o embaixador americano em Portugal, Alan Katz. Sr. Embaixador, Mr. Ambassador, first of all, thank you so much for being here with us. And my first question is, what is this forum about?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about this. The Access Africa Forum, which we're doing, which will begin on, this week, it is similar to what we did 2 years ago. And the central idea is this, that American businesses and Portuguese businesses working together can do an awful lot of things in Lusophone Africa, and in this case Mozambique, that is much harder for each one of us to do separately. There are many American businesses who do not know Lusophone Africa at all, but have capital and innovation that they would like to bring to different parts of the world. Because we have a good relationship with Portugal and Portuguese businesses, our hope is that together they can produce more than they could separately.
And why Mozambique, specifically this year?
Well, this year, originally we did all of Lusophone Africa. We looked at it, and so we decided to focus a little more on one country, and Mozambique happened to be the one. The growth there, we think, is there's a lot of potential for a lot of business to be done by American companies, particularly with their Portuguese partners. And we think that the relationship that we've tried to grow with Portugal lays a very, very good groundwork. Recently, I took a group of 20 Portuguese companies to the United States to meet with American companies about doing business in America together, about doing business in Portugal together, and about doing business in Mozambique together.
And let me ask you, why Portugal? Why did the United States decide to grow this idea and this initiative in Portugal?
Well, there are two reasons. First of all, before I came over as ambassador, I read a lot about Portugal's history and the United States history with Portugal, and I believed that there was a great opportunity because of the fact that coming together, United States and Portugal, each bringing something that the other didn't have, and going to a part of the world that Portugal knows so well, where Portugal understands the language, they understand the culture, and many American companies do not. And so our hope was that together, or my belief was together, we could do this. And because Portugal and the United States have a very long tradition of cooperation and of an alliance, it seemed to me to be something we should try to do. And fortunately, since our conference in 2010, there have been 17 different instances of businesses that came out of that have worked together for things in Lusophone Africa. A couple in particular have produced very, very large results. So we're very pleased. We think it was successful. We think this one can be more successful. And people need to recognize when it comes to building trade relationships, it is very rare that one event creates many, many things. But it's the continuing to go back and to go back and to go back and to take what it worked well and refine it and make it better is what will lead to greater success for both Portugal, the United States, Portugal and the United States.
Having said that, I can see that you believe that Portugal right now has a differential factor in terms of human skills, and I'm speaking about the language and history. Mm-hmm. Do you think the same can happen in this relationship between not only Portugal and Africa, but also Portugal and Brazil? You are also seeing that in this relationship?
I think that the relationship with Brazil is different. Certainly the United States relationship with Brazil is different. And I think that at this point in time, the areas where the United States can work best with Portugal in areas where they're not normally working by themselves is in Lusophone Africa.
And this relationship has anything to do with the presence of Chinese in
Not
Africa?
really.
No, I'm speaking
really.
about raw materials.
Yes,
Everybody speaks about that. That in somehow developed world wants raw materials and this relationship and this balance of power.
Well, I think we need to recognize a number of things. First of all, China is a rising power in the world, as is Brazil, as is India. And they're growing economic powers. But in many ways, from the United States perspective, we welcome this because we think that what it does, it creates more opportunity, more growth in the world. We believe is good for everyone. And we think that one of the problems that we've had so far in the United States and in Europe and other parts of the world has been that we haven't had enough economic development and economic activity. And our hope is that with activities like the Access Africa Forum and others, that we will be able to stimulate more economic activity. And we don't believe that it's necessarily a zero-sum game. In other words, if it's good for China and bad for the United States, that's not. We don't look at the world that way. We think that what happens is there are opportunities for all, and we think that competition is very healthy for everyone.
Speaking about sectors, which kind of sectors United States companies want in Mozambique?
Well, I think that there are several obvious ones. The whole mining operations in Mozambique offer, I think, great opportunities. Clearly, energy operations, which the United States is very actively involved in, not just in the United States, but throughout the world, including Africa. And I think that there are agricultural activities that have, again, great potential that can be developed. And our hope really is that combining those sectors and finding people who see a need and provide a product that will be useful to a country like Mozambique as it grows, we think those are great opportunities.
From a geopolitical strategy, what is the importance of Mozambique knowing that has neighborhoods such as South Africa?
Well, the fact is that we believe that geopolitically Africa is very important, and South Africa and the southern part of Africa is very important as well to the United States, not only geopolitically but economically. And a significant part of our export initiative is focused on Africa, and that part of Africa we think has great opportunity.
Changing a little bit subject, you were nominated in 2010 by President Barack Obama to be embassador here in Portugal. What do you think is the current thinking of President Barack Obama in terms of international policy? You see a lot of change going on?
Well, I think that President Obama's becoming president, which I think, and much of which was articulated in his Cairo speech in 2009, laid out a fundamental vision of how America views the world. And that is that we view the world as a place with great opportunities for partnership, for those countries that choose to want to work together for peace and for prosperity for more people. We are very, very interested in moving forward, and that old allies such as Portugal are very important to us, and new opportunities exist with countries that perhaps in the past our relationships were not so good, but we would like to change them. And I think that in many ways that situation has been successful. Everything has not been successful, but it never is, But I think that the President's vision of how America works with the world is being carried out. And my sense is that the rest of the world has responded, for the most part, very positively to this vision.
And in Portugal, in your speech and in your letters that you sent to DC, what is your view about Portugal? And now that we are living this huge financial crisis?
Well, for several things. First of all, I think Portugal is a remarkable country. I think that the people of Portugal are remarkably warm, and they have an enormous sense of their own history, which I think is really a very, very good thing. I know it's a very difficult time right now, economically for Portugal. And I think that many people here have sacrificed a great deal because of the circumstances that everyone's facing. And I think that there are no popular decisions that any government can make at times like this. And so it's hard for everyone. But as I always remark to my Portuguese friends who talk about how difficult things are, and is that it's always important to remember that in 1974, Portugal not only overthrew a dictatorship, but they resisted a communist takeover. They avoided a civil war. They absorbed close to 1 million immigrants, and they created a democracy. And when you look at today's problems in the context of the problems of 1974, 1975, I have great confidence that the Portuguese people will prevail.
In somehow, all this situation rose us to a new balance of power. I'm not only speaking about in financial markets, but also in terms of history. How do you see the paper of the United States and also of Portugal in this new paradigm? Do you believe we are living a new paradigm?
Well, I think that if we need to recognize that change is one of the things that we all must adjust to, because change is part of the world that we live in. And if we try to resist change, we're generally unsuccessful. And so we have to adapt to it. And we live in a different world today. NATO is a very good example. NATO was originally created as a way to defend against Russian tanks coming across Central Europe. Those days are over. That's not that concern no longer exists. But what does exist is a need for NATO, and the need for NATO was best shown by what happened with Libya. That Libya could never have been so successful if after the end of the Cold War, people had said, "Oh, we're through. NATO can go away now." So what has happened is that we have begun to take existing institutions and readjust them to the new paradigms that exist.
And with that, and before we are arriving to the end of our conversation, but I have a last question, last but not least. For people that are at home listening, what you have to say if they have a project and they want to go to Africa but they don't have capital? Is the United States open to find partners and somehow to finance these projects?
The United States is very open to innovative ideas that they believe will create successful businesses. And the United States has always been, in many ways, the land of opportunity, and we have gone throughout the world with our capital and with our know-how to find like-minded people and to put together our capital and their ideas to form successful businesses. And we are hopeful that we will continue to be able to do that with our Portuguese friends.
Thank you so much, Embaixador, for being here with us. Muito obrigada também por estar desse lado a acompanhar-nos. Na próxima semana estaremos de volta com mais e pertinentes ideias em instante. Até lá, não se esqueça, já sabe que pode enviar sugestões para mafalda.avelar@económico.pt. Obrigada.
Obrigado.